Thursday, and Anthony Albanese was in Indonesia on a diplomatic charm offensive to win over President Prabowo.
It was a grand and warm welcome from one of our closest neighbours today as the Prime Minister arrived in Jakarta in a diplomatic push to counter Chinese and Russian influence.
Moscow wants to station long-range bombers in the northeast of Indonesia.
The PM keen to know, does Russia still want a military base in Indonesia? And if so, how soon can Jetstar fly there? To break the ice, the PM offered his host a thoughtful gift.
Anthony Albanese presenting Indonesia's president with a leather horse bridle that was made in Australia.
Ooh, fancy. And you can't just pick up a harness like that at the airport. You have got to go to the horse store or Sexyland. So what would President Prabowo offer in return for the Pleasure Girdle 4000?
And Prabowo Subianto made an off-the-cuff offer to Anthony Albanese for Australia's Prime Minister to come back and spend a few weeks riding horses together.
Mr. Prabowo extended an invitation to Mr. Albanese for a longer visit, suggesting a 2 or 3 week holiday in Indonesia and share horseback riding adventures.
Ball's in your court, Albo. How serious are you about stopping the Russians? Are you 3 full weeks of horseback riding adventures serious? Because if you're not, we all know someone who is. But thankfully, Albo still had one diplomatic trick up his sleeve.
Anthony Albanese gave Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto's pet cat, Bobby, a red neckerchief that reads, "Australia loves Indonesia." The PM also shared a photo of his dog, Toto, wearing a matching red neckerchief.
Yes, for the sake of Indonesian-Australian relations, Albo was willing to marry off his dog. To Saturday, and on Channel 9, Peter Overton shared his experience of making his first ever hook turn in Melbourne.
I absolutely did think I was going to die.
Sorry, Peter. I think we might have cut you off.
Those are Kim Kardashian's words as she took the stand at a jewellery robbery trial in Paris.
Testifying for 5 hours against the gang accused of holding her at gunpoint, tying her up, and stealing nearly $10 million of her jewellery.
She basically said this robbery changed everything, Alison. For starters, she used to post on social media in real time where she was, what kind of jewellery she was wearing.
Codes to the room safe, blueprints to the building, address of the local cash converters. It's like she can't even live anymore. Thankfully, Channel 9 were on hand to score this exclusive interview.
Kim Kardashian and her famous family bolstering security in the wake of the terrifying robbery. But any fears she may have being back here in Paris, she set aside for this moment. Kim, how emotional was this moment for you?
Wow. That was pretty awkward. Pete, how did it make you feel?
I absolutely did think I was going to die.
To Monday, and Anthony Albanese continued his overseas mission, this time with a gift for Volodymyr Zelensky.
Anthony Albanese has assured Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky that a fleet of retired Abrams tanks are on the way.
The tanks are on their way, presumably each with their own Toto Loves Ukraine tankerchief. And not a moment too soon, given just days earlier, peace talks fell through between Zelensky, Putin and Trump.
Critical peace talks between Russia and Ukraine appear to be over before they've begun.
Russian President Vladimir Putin declined to go. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would only attend if Putin was present.
It instantly had a cascading effect. US President Donald Trump now saying he will not come here either.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? No, he was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there.
So Zelensky would only go if Putin was going, Putin would only go if Trump was going, but Trump would only go if Putin went with him. So less a high-stakes summit, more a Year 11 formal. And just like a high school falling out, soon the name-calling began.
Mr. Putin decided to stay in Moscow despite having floated the idea of these peace talks. The Russian foreign ministry then came out and called Mr. Zelensky a loser.
The problem is, I don't know whether I can say this on radio, Trump is Putin's bitch.
Only in the UK can you say bitch on live radio while sitting in front of a Renaissance masterpiece. So after being stood up by two of the world's most powerful leaders, Zelensky was forced to go on a consolation date with Anthony Albanese. Ooh. Oof, that is awkward. Zelensky quoted as saying,
"I absolutely did think I was going to die."
To Tuesday, and amidst a global outbreak of measles, including a spike in Australia, it was time for leadership from the newly appointed US Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But first, a quick primer. What's he all about? Well, it's a bizarre story.
Now to perhaps the most bizarre story of the day. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. revealing that a worm ate part of his brain.
A really bizarre story in politics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now admits that he was the one who left a dead bear cub in Central Park and posed for a photo with it.
Another bizarre story involving former presidential candidate RFK Jr., and this one involves a whale.
Kennedy reportedly cut off the whale's head and then bungee corded it to the roof of the family minivan.
Easily the darkest instalment of National Lampoon's Vacation. So, with measles spreading globally, RFK was asked a fairly simple medical question.
If you had a child today, would you vaccinate that child for measles?
For measles, probably for measles. You know, what I would say is my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. But I don't think people should be taking advice, medical advice from me.
Yeah, the head of the health department should not be giving health advice. That is the job of guests on the Joe Rogan podcast. OK, measles tripped you up. How about something a little easier?
Just one last one, just a yes or no, please, if it could. Polio?
Polio? Again, I don't want to be giving advice.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Like I said, I was not doing it as a gotcha.
Yeah, I hate to date myself, but, you know, I'm old enough to remember when polio, yes or no, was not considered a gotcha question. Now, given this unmitigated train wreck, you may wonder, how did the US Health Secretary prepare for the hearing? Spoiler alert, it's a bizarre story.
It looks like an idyllic family outing, but that creek that RFK Jr. is splashing around in isn't exactly pristine. In fact, it's a sewer runoff and is polluted with widespread fecal contamination. But in this photo, RFK Jr. is totally submerged.
The American health system is quite literally up shit creek. It's true. It is true. But as they say, the brainworm wants what the brainworm wants.